I suppose we could just briefly touch on Black Adam
Yeah,
in a non-sexual way, but yeah,
I was. Oh well, yeah. Go first, I guess.
it was a movie.
Hmm.
Definitely, there's no denying it was a film. I mean, I think it's combining the two like most like overused commodities in modern cinema. You know, like superhero movies and The Rock.
Yeah.
But it wasn't terrible. It's weird. Like I'm sure I tweeted about this earlier. It's like I can't really think of anything massive to criticize it for, but I can't really think of anything to praise it for either. It's just kind of a movie. Um,
There's
it's
there's writing flaws for sure. I was expected to be way worse. I came out just being like,
yeah,
huh, all right then. Um, I the height of my enjoyment was ever whenever Pierce Brosnan was on screen.
yes,
He was not just because he's Pierce Brosnan, but that did help. But also because I think Doctor Fate was the most interesting person in the film.
yes. I just would have loved to have seen more of a build up of the relationship between him and is it Hawkman?
Yes, I agree with you. Actually, it's
Because
very
like the script really hints at a long friendship between them, and I'm like, okay, great, but like I'm not really getting enough time between the two of them to really build that up.
if
And
this is what I mean, they've hit the ground running now with a reset for DC to the point where they're like, we've got a Justice League type team, Justice Society, and they've been going for a while. Like we didn't get the movie where Doctor Fate was discovered and then he met Hawkman, and it feels like this movie kind of is trying to argue we've seen that part, and it's like we really haven't. And yeah, I think in the final, like the third act, he refers to him as my old friend like several times, and I was
yeah,
like, I get it, I know you care, but I'm not quite feeling it. Um,
yeah,
I got more out of just imagining what kind of life Doctor Fate has led. Also, spoilers, I guess.
yeah.
Because I watched Ryan Kindle's review of it out of curiosity with what he thought of it, and his sort of comment section was filled with frustration about that ending to that character, and I was like, oh, because and I think it actually comes from a place of people wanting to see more of him, so that's good, I guess.
I think so because correct me if I'm wrong. Like the reveal about his origins and how old he is, like doesn't really happen until quite late in the movie. Like you're not really
Um,
given much about that up until that point.
I didn't realize that was treated as a reveal. I thought it was just kind of casual. It's just like, yeah, when I was a little boy, it was World War I, and I was like, oh, so he's old, right?
Well, yeah, that's how I took it, and I was like, okay, have I missed other little hints that he's really old before now? But I don't think I did. It was just like kind of dropped in there. But again, yeah, it kind of stirs up a lot of interesting possibilities about well, what have you seen in your life? What incredible things have you experienced?
There was
But
something interesting, I think, to me. The most one of the most meaningful things I found from the movie when I was thinking about different things they did was the fact that this a guy who's lived that long, not even Kang long, just a decent chunk of time, like over 100 years. Um, Something reassuring for like a fortune teller, a future seer, is to finally not know what the future's going to be, and that
mm,
he found that beautiful. I was like, that's an interesting thought.
yeah, I mean, him knowing that like this is, I guess, where he's going to die, and so
Yeah.
there's nothing beyond this, and it's like, oh, this is how normal people get to live. Finally, I get to experience that again. It's like, yeah, I can get that. That's pretty cool, and I think probably the reason that like the plot doesn't go too far wrong is that it's so simple that it really can't. Like, there's not huge amounts of like twists and turns and revelations and things. It's all pretty straight up, and
the
I
the
suppose
power
that's the
levels are a bit confusing for me. I don't know. Like Satan Man has big power, Black Adam has big power, Doctor Fate has big power. You're like, yep.
yeah. Because yeah, like he can obliterate entire armies, but when he comes to fight like Hawkman, it's like he can just
Yeah,
punching him and throwing him around and stuff. And I'm like, okay, is Hawkman just like a superhuman as well as all the armor and stuff that he wears?
I
Like,
spoke to Friggy about that, and I was like, I guess Hawkman's real strong. He's like, yeah, he's real strong. And I was like, no, I mean like real strong. He's like, yeah, real strong. And I was like, no, 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 I mean like Superman strong. Like,
yeah. the
and
sorry, on you go.
yeah, that's fine. By the way, I just didn't know that. I don't think we ever get a powers loadout type thing for Hawkman in the movie. I think they just show you him, and you're supposed to gather from what you see that he's like. I would say he's got like super strength, like Superman
Mm.
level,
Super durability as well,
and super
clearly.
yeah, that's what it seems to be. But he is very much capable of dying, so he's not quite as good as Superman. So it's just like I guess that's it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. They sort of overuse the whole like Doctor Fate can duplicate himself kind of thing, like which is something Doctor Strange did as well. In
It
when they're
does
fighting Thanos.
It's so weird because I said like Doctor Fate is so totally just Doctor Strange, and then Free was like, "Well, Doctor Fate came first in the comics," and it's like
Oh,
that is
interesting.
kind of funny, isn't it? Like in the
Yeah.
movies, it feels at this point that I'm like, "Oh, I've seen you before."
You know the interesting difference though. You always feel like with Doctor Strange, they are constantly scrambling to give him new powers, new magic spells. Like literally every time he does a spell, it's like a different thing. Apart
Yeah,
from the sling ring, it's always different things. And I think you pointed this out in your Multiverse of Madness review. There's times when it's like, you've really hit upon a really useful spell that you should probably use more than once, because
yeah.
like other things that you've tried after that have been less effective. you know. That's the frustrating thing. Like, whereas this guy's kind of got a baseline of useful abilities that he just kind of keeps reusing, and you almost feel like, okay, maybe that's just like the limits of his powers. He only knows a few different tricks,
Yeah,
almost.
I think that's a really interesting point. We see him. He can cause people to see an illusion. He can create like shields.
Hmm.
He like drops. I don't even know how to call it. It looks
It's
like
like
a
a crystal thing that
dimensional, yeah, crystal
imprisons you.
dimension thing on people. He does that one twice. He's a lot more consistent in what powers he uses. You're right. Which I actually do think I take over what they did with Doctor Strange, where it's a new power every single time, and I have just no clue what he can do.
Yeah,
Um, I also, it's not even fair really, because Doctor Strange at this point is barely a character in the MCU. He's so over the place. But like, I way prefer the approach of just this. It's the kind of thing we were complaining about with Kang, where we were like, how can this guy who's this old and this well versed and this well experienced just be a clown? Pierce Brosnan played Doctor Fate as much more like he's lived a life that's not been fun,
yeah. He's
which is
just he's a suave motherfucker, the way
yeah.
like Pierce Brosnan. You're like you
I
just
miss him. He should be in more stuff.
I know. It's like I'm looking at him like, God, he still looks great, and you can tell he's like totally into this role and he's just giving it his all. I think he's great fun to watch. And yeah, I want to see him in more things, It's a shame. But yeah, I thought even The Rock was okay as Black Adam.
Yeah, someone asked me
He's
like, what did I think, and I was like, he didn't drag the thing down in any way for me, but I also don't know that I would like say he's like a he's like a 6, and I mean that in the most literal sense of he didn't damage anything and he added a bit. There are some deliveries from him. This is to give you an example, right? Because I'm not entirely dead inside. I was watching the film, and there's this portion for those in chat who haven't seen it where the Justice Society and Black Adam, for a moment, have the same goal, which is to find someone who is inside like a high-tech motorbike thing. But there are several high-tech motorbikes, so you got to go and check them all. And as they, going through, you can choose what you want to do to the people who are piloting them, who are the bad guys. Black Adam's just fucking annihilating them. And it's kind of fun. Like he just does not care. And I made fun of them for this in the marketing because I was like, Iron Man kills people too. But no, I think it was fair. What they're trying to say is he literally not only kills people, but he just could not give less of a shit about you. He's just like, whatever, you're dead. Bye. You're in the
yeah.
way. And they do play that up quite a bit. But so he's killing these people with these motorbikes, and then Hawkman catches up to him at one point when he's looking in the back of one, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm looking for the boy." And then he's like, "You're killing everybody." And then he's like, "Well, how else will I find him?" And while they're having this back and forth, there is a guy shooting a pistol at Black Adam the
Yeah.
whole time. There's just bullets dinging off him as he's trying to explain why he kills people. I was like, "This is funny. I like this."
Yeah. Yeah, because there's another bit where he throws like a guy, like they end up going all the way to like Vietnam or somewhere, and it crashes like the bike, and he takes the pilot and throws him up in the air, and like Dr. Fate arrives, and he's like, "Have you, we need this guy so that we can interrogate him," and Black Adam just doesn't speak.
No,
It's
no,
like,
yeah,
you've killed him, haven't you? And then it's like way in the background, you just eventually see the guy land, and he just goes, "He didn't make it."
yeah, yeah. Like they do a little T2 thing with him and the catchphrase where even though it feels ripped from T2, like hardcore, there was stuff that was making me smile. Like this kid tells him he needs to say the man in black sent you to anyone he's about to kill, and he misunderstands, and the first time he tries it is on a guy who's already dead, and the camera just sits on the dead body, and then the kid is like, "You need to be alive when you say it." He's just like, "Oh, right, okay."
They tries it a second time, but it's like the guy's in the midst of getting killed. Like
Yeah.
it's like he gets
Tell
killed
him the
before he
man
can
in black.
complete the yeah yeah. And there's a payoff to it. You know, he saves it for the villain at the end, and I think, yeah, okay, it's good. It's like it's very basic setup and payoff, but it's all right.
Dude, it's almost one to one with like the progression of Hasta La Vista Baby sort of thing, and it's not
Yeah,
something I don't. When you do it well enough and it's different enough, I'm fine with it. Even though I assume it must have been inspired by that. I don't know, because he is
yeah,
very their relationship is a little bit Terminator and little boy sort of thing.
yeah. I
Um,
would say so.
the
And you know,
holy
there's a
shit that little kid's acting. Did you notice it? Oof.
oh, you can't. Yeah, it almost makes the cast of Doctor Who look competent.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
I don't
I
know if this is. I don't know if they've done this to make him seem like more cute or innocent or something. But I feel like they've digitally raised his voice, like to make it higher pitched than it should be. Because there's times like the bit near the end where he's giving a speech to kind of rally the townspeople. It really feels like his voice has gone up in pitch from what he normally talks like. I don't know why. It's
I'd have
odd.
to see a comparison, but man, that speech at the end, I was just like, stop, stop, just tell him, give him a small amount of things to say. He can't do it. It's so
Yeah.
awkward. Please stop.
I'm cringing inside. Yeah. I think the big weak point I think was probably Atom Smasher and Cyclone, or no, is it Cyclone? Is that her name?
Yes.
Yeah, it is Cyclone. In that they don't really get much to do, and they feel like just
Kind of
spare
there.
wheels.
No,
Yeah, they're
dude,
just
you
kind
know
of
what they would
there.
be is they had their own origin films and they are here as part of the fun team up, like or something. Because yeah, they just feel like they're here out of obligation, but what obligation? They're brand new. And also, Atom Smasher. This seems harsh, and I'm not saying this from a comic perspective, just from film. He's just Ant Man.
Yeah,
Not
essentially.
only is he just Ant-Man in terms of like the power that he uses, in fact, it's like half of Ant-Man's powers, but he also like the character of like, ooh, I'm awkward, ooh, I make mistakes, but I'm kind of funny and I wisecrack here and there. And it's like, yep.
It's yeah, and this I don't know if this is where we're gonna find out that like Atom Smasher came first and Ant Man was based on
Yeah.
him or something. Like probably I don't know about the comics, um, but yeah, like I did. I kind of like their relationship. I just feel like it belonged in a different movie or something. Like it's almost like they detract from the central characters, which is like Doctor Fate, Hawkman, and Black Adam, because they kind of eat up screen time, but they don't add much to the movie. But they're kind of likable in their own right.
Hmm.
It's an odd one. I feel like they need to be split off somehow. I just thought it was interesting as well because Cyclone came off as a nice, likable character, and I just think if Marvel had been in charge of her, she would have been a total
Oh
asshole
yeah,
to him.
dude. Like I tolerated both of them. I was just like, and I wasn't expecting to. When it was like my thing is wind, I was like, I don't know, man, what's that gonna do? And then when she came in and did some wind stuff, I was like, okay, that's all right. Yeah, I can kind of see with that good level of control, fine. That's the thing with a lot of stuff in this film. I was kind of just like, well, that doesn't annoy me or impress me. That's
Yeah,
there.
it's neutral, and I think this is David Zaslav's first like DC movie. I think under his tenure, and I think he pushed quite hard to get this done. And I don't know if this is indicative of his style, like because people were in chat are asking like, is it woke? And I would say emphatically no, it's absolutely not. And I don't know if that's what you're going to see
Oh,
from DC. It's just going to be perhaps slightly bland, forgettable movies that are just kind of general entertainment, like the kind of comic book films that you would have gotten 10, 15 years ago.
this feels like almost like it would timeline maybe is how I'd argue this fits kind of like where Age of Ultron is if this were the DC universe. Like it feels like a Phase 2 movie, and it's like, what do you mean by that? It's like, well, it's very fine. A lot of it is fine in terms of moving things along, and it's like, what do you mean? Like this is like a reset. I'm like, exactly. It's so weird. The film is pretending as though everything's going fine, pretty much. Like it's the when the Justice Society were introduced, I was like, who the fuck are these guys? Like, and
I
it's
mean,
like, oh yeah, they've been operating for ages. Like, what do you mean they haven't? No, they haven't. And it's like, yeah, the way they do it, man, where it's like, we've got a threat. Who's the team? And it's like, what? Where's everyone else? Where's Superman then? And it's like, well, he'll pop in maybe at the end. Who knows?
yeah. I mean, it was good to see him, and it's nice to have that reassurance that okay, they still believe in Henry Cavill. You
Hmm.
know, just please make a fucking Superman movie with him. It's like you've kept him waiting for like 5 years now. Just make it happen.
I assume that they
Uh,
might be. And so, from what I'm gathering, by the way, Black Adam's doing well. Is doing okay?
I think it's doing all right. Yeah. And
Because someone
I
asked me, what do I think about that? I was like, dude, I have no idea. I don't get audience box office shit anymore. I don't understand whether or not I don't know if Black Adam's going to do well. I don't know, but apparently from what I'm hearing, it's got a good first day. So
It's not up against anything though. I guess that's the thing. Like, obviously, there's no other big blockbusters right now. Wakanda Forever is still what, a few weeks away? Is it?
and that could be the thing that just pushes it out. But by that time, it should have
Yeah, if
hit
it
its
gets
mark.
yeah, if it gets a couple of weekends, clear run at it, it'll make bank. I think so. Yeah, there's that, and I think maybe the fact that it's not preachy and it's not annoying, and it's just a sort of generic, inoffensive movie with a fairly decent cast, like that'll be enough to like push it up there.
I think there was some cringe. I've seen the internet discussing it. Do you know the Mexican standoff part? What do you think of that?
Yeah, that didn't make any sense. Because,
I
well, the fucking, like, what's it called? Intergang or something like that. Like, just
yeah.
this mercenary force that have got the most weird, like, fake English accents I've ever heard. But anyway, if you've pumped, say, 1,000 rounds into this dude's, like, of ammunition, and, like, it hasn't even put a dent in him, you wouldn't bother to reload. You would just run away. And,
Yeah, or
and
do a Mexican standoff. Why did everybody just suddenly agree? I don't think people know how Mexican standoffs work. Like, you don't just it's in a scenario like that. Most of them are just going to carry on shooting him. They're not going to go. Wait a second. I'm
yeah.
going to stop now because we're doing that. And it was weird for him to have picked it up as like a guy who's from what was it 5,000 years ago. He saw like a clip on TV,
He had no context for what was happening
and
or anything.
some people are probably like, "Well, a clip's enough, isn't it?" It's like, no, no, no. Sorry, I mean like 2 seconds. He saw that, and then he just blew up the TV. So I don't really
Well,
get it.
yeah, I mean, he shouldn't even really know what guns are yet. I mean, I know he's kind of briefly seen them, but like, I don't know if he would make the connection between that and like old cowboy six shooters. I still don't really understand how he learned English either. It's like he speaks in his like native language for the first couple of scenes, and then he just kind of knows how to communicate in English perfectly
That's
well.
yeah, there you go. That's actually I think a rather bigger issue. He operates kind of snarkily and funnily as though he's just completely fine with moving in 5,000 plus years culturally. It doesn't come across at all as though he's a guy from 5,000 years ago.
I think they could have played into that so much more. Like, imagine a 5,000-year-old dude who's not, who's missed out on all this development of culture
Mm.
and technology and stuff. Like, how amazed he would be by all this stuff. You could do a lot with that, but it just kind of glosses over it. I did. It did make me laugh, probably more than it should have. Just how he doesn't give a fuck about walls. He just like walks through them. Like if he has to get from one room to another, he doesn't bother with the door. He just kind of walks
Oh,
straight through the wall. Like,
that's an exchange I liked where he says, "Do they not have walls where you're from?" And then he's like, "Of course we did. That's how we got into rooms." And he's like, "That was sarcasm, sarcasm." And then he's like, oh, "Okay." Then later on, he's like, "I won't kill anyone ever again." And then he immediately threatens to kill people. Like he actually almost kills someone. And Pierce Brosnan's like, "Let me guess, that was sarcasm." No, no, sorry. He says that was sarcasm in response to like criticism of it. And he goes, "No, that was just a lie."
yeah,
Like. They're just like picking at each other for how they're using these words. Because Pierce Brosnan is playing the character of like you're a volatile, crazy person, but you're really useful. So this is complicated.
yeah.
Meanwhile, Hawkman and Black Adam have fights several times in this film.
I know. I don't fully understand why Hawkman's so eager to like fight him at every opportunity because it's like clearly you're not going to defeat this guy. He is beyond your abilities.
Yeah,
But he's just like like two toughest kids on the block, and it's like of course we want to fight each other. We've got to see who's stronger. It's like you've had that question answered already. You need to win this guy over. You do not want to be pissing him off. But yeah.
so yeah, that's the thing. It's like final verdict. It's like I don't even know, man. I don't even know.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I'm probably going to review it properly tomorrow, and
Mhm.
yeah, even now when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, what the hell is my assessment of this film? Like, I can't praise it too much. Like, I wouldn't have said I loved it, but then I can't really think of much to criticize it from or for. I feel like I came out of the movie theater just like, yeah, it was all right. Like, it made me laugh. It wasn't terrible. I suppose that's got to count for something. So,
I even
yeah,
appreciate this road for a superhero story being. I actually kind of appreciate the twist. That his son gave him power to save him, but his son was more of the paragon, where he was more of a tyrant in waiting, fueled by absolute rage.
I mean, I suppose, but then the film's already hinted at that previously, where he went into the throne room and just killed everyone out of revenge. Like that had already been revealed, and it's like, well, okay, I get that he's not necessarily a good person,
Oh,
and he
yeah.
doesn't have like
I guess I
altruistic
probably have
motives.
criticism of exactly how they execute it and stuff, but I guess what I'm trying to talk about is just like the archetype. It's much more interesting than I would have expected them to do. Where the film asks basically, it's like, is he a hero? Can he protect this city? And it's like, who cares if he's a hero? We need someone that can just stop the bad guy.
Hmm.
And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, that's interesting to think about, yeah, and how it'll
It's.
be going forward.
I think there's a lot they can now do with him. Yeah. And I guess it's it's another vehicle for The Rock to do a big franchise.
Oh
Um,
yeah, he's
Fair
gonna try
enough.
and get himself his own personal MCU, and who knows? Maybe he will. The guy now has access to all of them, like so. Yeah,
It's only a matter of time until we see him in Star Wars, man. Honestly.
Rock in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, he's got he's got the charisma. He can do stuff, that's for sure. He's still young enough that he can do all the action scenes and stuff, and he's still massive. I think the critique I've always had of him is that he's basically just playing himself in every movie, and this is like the biggest stretch I think he's done in a while, where it's a more ambiguous character. But man, it's been a long time since he's ever done anything particularly dark or sinister or whatever.
I did get very Suicide Squad-y vibes from some of the choices they did with the music and montages.
Yeah.
It started to get to the point where like music was turning off and on really arbitrarily. I was just like, oh geez, we're doing that, are we? Like
Yeah.
one of those opening action scenes, I thought was just entire cringy, like shit, where he's just slow motion running around deciding how he's going to kill everybody. I appreciate the point the
Oh,
scene is making, but I see your red door, and it's just like, no, everyone uses this song.
yeah, paint it black. Like that was so fucking obvious a choice.
It's
Um,
Rolling Stones. You can figure out something else from them, can't you? Why does everyone have to choose paint it black? God damn it.
Jesus. Yeah, there was some weird stuff. I thought as well, like you know the base of operations where they've got like a jet parked in an underground hangar, and it like the whole like garden area just like folds up to like allow this thing to take off. It's like the most ridiculously impractical way of getting an aircraft into the air, but it's almost like expected at this point. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're superheroes. Of course they're gonna have a crazy layer that doesn't really obey the laws of physics. Who cares? I think that's a real, I don't know. That's just where they're at with these DC movies. Like, don't think about it too much. Just go.
I guess it'll be interesting to see who Dr. Fate's helmet chooses next, right? That's a thing that happens in that world.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Hawkman can use it, but I
Yeah,
guess he's not like bonded to it or anything.
he's like friends with it, but he's not
Yeah.
gonna. For a moment, I was like, they're not gonna make Hawkman the new Dr. Fate, are they? That would be weird. But no.